Levi here, welcome to the channel, and we're going to dig into some application of first resistance. So we do talk about it in depth in one of the videos. Feel free to go check that out if you want a deep dive. This is just some basic movements that you can apply this to. So for instance, I had a lady who had gotten into a horrific ski accident. Nope, a motorcycle accident. She was a skier who had had past ski accidents. But in her motorcycle accident, she got to where she couldn't bend her knees. And she came to me for some assistance. And this is how we applied first resistance in her squats. So with her knees that were too painful to even bend enough to sit down, I just encouraged her to do squats into first resistance. For her, it looked like this for the first few movements. And then as her brain began to realize that it felt safe with those, it let her go deeper down in them. And she had been trying to rehabilitate for, I want to say, at least a month before she saw me, and hadn't made much progress in her knees. But within a few days, she was already bending down to parallel with the floor without any pain because she was honoring that first resistance. And what that looks like is each time she engaged going down, she would listen to her body, wherever it was stopping her, whether it was her knees, her hips, her low back, wherever, and not go beyond where it felt guarded, like it didn't know if it was safe after that. She would just go right up to that point and engage it there, and listening for that each time she went down. You can also apply this in your chest and shoulders by reaching out and doing little shoulder circles. And what I'm listening to, I had a chest workout yesterday, so I feel some soreness, so I'm not gonna force it to go beyond that, because if I force it, it's gonna be going into other areas in the body. And so I'm just gonna hold that pose and do little circles where I feel it just start to resist me. And I'm showing my brain, hey, this movement right here is safe, and it's going to want to open up further. If you're finding you can't get your shoulders back, this is a bit of a compromised position. So do what's called a camshaft, where you just do a single arm circle or glide. You can explore first resistance there. And another one is with lunges. If you just take a step or feet together, you can find your first resistance by gently stepping forward and finding where that first limitation kicks in. That's where you're going to do your lunge. You'll tuck your hip, and you can just kind of jive there. You kick that knee back, feel some of that stretching on either side. And then as your body opens up to that, you can lengthen your stride. You can work your way down where you're lunging on the floor. And there's just a few applications of first resistance physically. I also apply this to my life emotionally. If I start finding in my day that I come across the feeling of overwhelm, for instance, I had a moment with my niece and nephew the other day where I just realized I was overwhelmed because they're both trying to ask me questions at the same time. And I sat there and I told them, I'm like, hey, I'm going to have a moment where I'm not answering either of your questions because I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed by that. And my nephew sat on my lap and he was like, are you all right, Uncle Levi? I'm like, totally fine. I'm overwhelmed. I'm realizing that I want to give you both my full attention, but I can't because you're coming at me at the same time. So I need a moment for my brain to reset. And he just sat there and snuggled me, and it was a really sweet moment. And I realized that in the past, if I wouldn't take the time to recognize that first resistance and come up against that and try to push through it, it could create these dynamics of anxiety or stress where I want to hang out with them less, and I know that's not my goal. I want to hang out with them more. So taking the moment to recognize where I'm at and eventually finding clear ways to communicate that, communicate my own needs, that's first resistance in my emotional life, and it has helped me take huge strides forward. So you can apply this to really anything. So I encourage you to explore what that means to you and find those freedoms in first resistance.